Good morning. Welcome. I'm with Career China. My name is Rachel, and I'm live from Beijing this morning. And joining me today is Lauren Hamilton. Hey, Lauren.
Hi,
How are you doing today?
I'm doing so good. How about you?
I'm good. It's super cold in Beijing today, but life is good. So today, Lauren and I are going to be talking about 7 top questions about living in China. So there are lots of questions people have about living in China, but we're going to kind of try to answer 7 of the top ones and talk about that a little bit this morning. So first, Lauren, could you introduce yourself to us a little bit?
Yes, my name is Lauren. I'm American, and I've been living in China for 3 years, going into my fourth. And yeah, I'm a teacher. I teach mostly English to middle school and high school students in a public school setting.
Awesome. Cool. Okay. So yeah, Lauren and I, we have both taught in China. So we've been teaching and living here for 3 years, more than 3 years now.
You know,
And so, so we've just had some questions that people ask us about living and teaching. So let's jump right into it. The very first one is, what is it like living in China? And that is like such a broad, general question, but a lot of people are just so curious. Like, China is so different. What is it actually like living in China? So how do you even answer that question?
um, I say it's like it's nothing. This is not really an answer. It's nothing like you've ever experienced before, but it's very very rewarding. It's difficult with any new situation or new environment, but it's probably one of the most rewarding places that you can work and live and experience, and the all around full circle.
For sure. Did you know
What
all
about
that
you?
before you came to China? Did you have an idea about what China was like even?
um, yeah, basically from like all the movies that so
Aw.
super accurate. Um, Not really. I think that's one thing that I just wasn't a person that really thought a lot about like trying.
Yeah.
I just wanted to try something new, and I was like, yeah, sure, China.
Right.
But yeah, I didn't really know a whole lot, but learned a lot once I arrived.
For
um,
sure.
but yeah, what about you?
The same kind of thing, like I didn't know much about living in China. It just kind of happened. I was like, I guess I'm gonna go move to China for a year, but I had no idea what to expect.
Hmm.
But overall, both you and I, we stayed for more than 1 year, more than two
Yeah.
years, and we found that we really liked it. There are some challenges that come with just moving
Hmm.
to a new country and starting a new job and doing something in a totally different environment. But for the most part, like it's awesome. It's challenging, but it's fun, and it's just a very different kind of pace of life than
Yeah,
being
exactly.
somewhere back home or being where you're from.
Mhm.
So that kind of goes along with our next question. Um, what do Chinese people think of foreigners? A lot of people ask me this, like, what do they think of you? Are they excited to meet you? What's been your experience with that?
I think it's like the same as like for most what like people from Western countries. Like when we think of Chinese people, we think of like kung fu and like Chinese takeout boxes and like super spiritual and Tai Chi and stuff. Obviously, what we see
Yeah,
in movies, and so I think for Chinese people, they see American movies and TV shows are so popular there that they think
yeah,
that that is your life, like to a T.
right. Yes, they do. I think especially we lived in like a smaller city. We didn't start out in Beijing or Guangzhou or something. We lived in a small city where a lot of them had not been around many foreigners. So their idea of like Americans or people from other countries was kind of like what they saw in the movies too. So it was interesting for us to like meet each other and like be like, oh wow, life is not exactly like the movies all the
Yeah,
time.
you're like a normal person. Wow, so cool.
I remember when somebody asked me, they were like, "So, do you know Taylor Swift? Do you have her phone number?" And I was like, "Wait, what?" I think that was so crazy, but that was very, small town kind of China. It's a little bit different in the bigger cities, of course.
Yeah.
But I
Yeah, I
think
think
people are
it's
still very friendly, very open to
yeah,
meeting
I
you.
think in the small cities, like you're a celebrity, like,
Yeah,
there's
yeah,
you're
yeah,
you're moving to a place of a country of Chinese people where everyone looks the same. And so especially as a
yeah,
Westerner, like you stick out like a sore thumb. So you're
yeah,
just
for sure.
fascinating just by walking
Exactly.
around.
different and it's interesting. They're curious about you. They might try to like look at you and take your photo. You might be asked to like hold a baby. I remember when I was shopping, people will like look at what you're shopping and what you're buying because they're just like, oh, it's just so
Yeah,
different.
exactly.
Yeah.
It's we're animals in a zoo, so
Yes, yes, yeah. And overall, like people are just like really friendly. They want to be your friend. They want to get to know you. A lot
of
of them will
course.
try to add you on WeChat. So it's just it's fun. I've never really had bad experiences.
Yes.
You know,
Yeah.
overall very positive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everything comes from
Yeah.
curiosity.
Yes, exactly.
Mhm.
Exactly. So our third top question is, do you need to speak Chinese before you come to China? So, did you speak any Chinese before you came to China?
That is a no. I did not. Which is really kind of sad. And I, even 3 years later, I still am not like as proficient as I should have been by now. But I think that's the biggest thing is no, you don't need to know Chinese or speak Chinese before moving here. You definitely, it's going to help a lot, but you don't need to. Especially a lot of people coming to like us, like we moved to China to teach English.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
that's our job is to speak English all the time. And so,
Yeah.
yeah.
For sure. Like you said, I think it's right. You don't need to speak Chinese. A lot of people are very worried. They're like, how can I be a Chinese teacher and communicate with my students if I don't speak any Chinese? That's not really the problem. Yeah, you'll be speaking English in your classrooms. A lot of times you'll have help with a TA. The biggest thing will be just in your daily life when you're trying to order things and buy food. And it will help you a lot if you do know Chinese. But like Lauren said, neither of us like knew Chinese before we came. So I think
Yeah.
once we came, we started learning and we realized like, oh yes, this is going to help me. And there's lots of ways that you can learn and get teachers, or like our students even helped us a lot when we were
Yeah,
teaching. Yeah,
for
they
sure.
would always help us and teach us little words and phrases to help in your daily life. So
I,
it will help if you know Chinese, but you don't have
yeah,
to.
especially just having like an overall base of like, I feel like there's so many things that just like very basic things that I didn't learn until like close to my first year. And I was
Yes,
just like, if I had just known that at the beginning, even before
yeah.
coming to China, it would have made a world of difference.
Right, that
So,
would have been so different, right? And like
yeah.
living in China for 3 years now, like you see foreigners who know fluent Chinese, like they can speak it completely no problem. But then you also meet people who have lived here 5 or 10 years and they don't speak any Chinese at all. So it's like such a range of people, and
Mhm.
kind of depends on what you want and where you live. Also, in a bigger city, you may not need it as often, but it will definitely help if you have some Chinese, a little bit of
Yeah.
knowledge, or at
And
least
I
want
think,
to try to learn.
yeah, especially if you're, if you're most people coming to China, they want to experience, they want to learn and kind of immerse themselves in a different culture. And I think to you already have a head start and you can do that on an even deeper level if you can just speak their language to begin with. So,
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, and the Chinese people, like all my friends, really appreciate it. They like seeing like, hey, you're trying and you want to learn, you're interested in my culture.
yeah,
Like that's a really big thing that
yeah,
it's interesting and cool for them.
yeah. Even if you
Yeah.
fail miserably, they're so happy. Like, wow, yeah.
Yeah, like it's okay. Your Chinese is so
Yeah,
good. No,
yeah.
no, it's not. Yeah. So you don't need to speak Chinese, but it is helpful for sure. So our next topic, number five, is number four, maybe, is China safe? So what would you say about that? Do you feel safe in China?
I think, yeah, like I've never felt really unsafe in China. I would say, um, and maybe that's some like foreigner like naivety of like, oh, everything's fine. But um, I think there's lots of guards and kind of protection of things, especially in schools, and apartments and things. A lot of
Yeah.
I've always lived in like a gated kind of community that's guarded and protected, and people are very very friendly. And there's lots of people in China, so anything that does happen, anything that does
True.
happen
There's
is
always someone there.
yes. And if not, there's cameras. So, and I think also one thing that's especially for foreigners specifically is China's very prideful of, putting themselves off on a good light and, welcoming people into their country and not having foreigners get a bad like understanding or portrayal of them. I think even probably extra or even more foreigners are safe compared to maybe just an everyday person. So it's nice.
For sure. Yeah. I think a lot of people are so worried about that. Like, I'm moving to a different country. I'm moving so far away from my friends and my family. Are people going to even want to help me? Will I just be totally alone? And I feel like anytime I've had a problem with in China, or I've even just felt like worried about something, so many people have offered to help me, like friends and
Mhm.
students, and they're always like, "Hey, how can I help you? Are you okay?" And then if we're just feeling safe, like even walking around a big city, yeah, there's so many people around. I've never felt unsafe. Even walking around at night, I feel like China's just there's always something going on. There's always activity. There's lights somewhere. Like I've never felt unsafe being here.
Yeah, and obviously, like we're not like stupid. We're just like we're like, oh, let me just sprinkle my money on the ground and see if anyone steals it.
Exactly. There comes like these common sense things like
Yeah.
that you have to always be aware of. Where you go, like, yeah, I'm gonna protect my valuables. I'm not gonna wave my money around and like call attention to yourself in a
Yeah.
really obnoxious or loud way. And like especially like as foreigners, like when you are going out and if you want to have fun with your friends and do stuff, just be safe, use common sense. But
Yeah.
I have always felt very
Yes.
safe
Me as
in
well.
China.
Yeah.
For sure. um, so, how do you adjust to culture shock? When you're moving to China, it is very different. There's a lot going on, and it's all very new. So, how did you adjust to that culture shock when you
It's
first moved to
funny
China?
because I was actually telling someone about this the other day about my. I feel like my culture shock wasn't. I didn't really grasp it until like later in my first year of China, and it happened when we were traveling, like the first
Oh
like
yeah.
long traveling that we had, and I think I we when I first moved to China, I moved in a very small city, and so I was able to kind of eventually navigate and kind of figure things out quite easily. Um, not quite easily, but eventually I got it. And so I got I got very comfortable in that. And then it took me going outside of that comfort zone and then to a different city in China that was like bigger and more people and crazier.
Yeah, like
Hmm.
something new or something. And it's a very different experience when you're even just
Yeah.
between and what you get used to in one city is very different in a different city.
Hmm.
Yeah, for
And
sure.
I
That's so
think, yeah, yeah, really. But adjusting to culture shock just came with like finding what is, finding your comforts. And, if you need to go to McDonald's one day, you need to go to McDonald's. If you need to
yeah,
go to McDonald's
that's true.
three
You need
times in a day, you go to McDonald's 3 times in a day. It
yeah,
just take, that's a health day. That's what you need to do. So
absolutely.
just learning to take time, like if you need a day to just like regroup your brain, that's how you can adjust to
Yeah.
culture shock and just let yourself like recuperate.
Yes, absolutely. I think it's so important to like take the time to like take care of yourself. And if there are days like you need to like, do some comfortable things that remind you of home or talk to your family, talk to
Mhm.
friends. I remember just like having other foreigners in the same city who just kind of understood where we were coming from and just what it was like to go to a new country. That was so helpful. Like just hanging out with other foreigners every now and then and having a day to just rest,
Yeah.
take a break from all the newness and all the overwhelmingness that is China sometimes. And also just like having friends and students help us a lot in the beginning. Um, I taught at a university when we both taught university when we came, and our students were so helpful and just like, hey, do you want to go out to dinner? Just teaching us new things about China, and I
Yeah.
think that helped me understand more. Just like, oh, that's why things are like this, and I just trying to wrap my mind around some new things sometimes. So having people there, Chinese people, to help us walk through it and teach us little things, that was so helpful for me.
Yeah, I think also it's just like just allow your like there's no time limit for it and everyone goes through it differently and it's not
Yeah.
grief, but it's like the same timeline of grief or what, there's different stages and not every
Yeah.
does it the same. So um
Yeah.
just allow yourself to go through it and it will pass. Just let it happen.
Yeah. Yeah. And even still now, after living in China for several years, like you mostly get through things, but every now and then you still feel like, okay, I just miss home one day, or I'm just really overwhelmed. There's so much
Yeah.
going on. Um, yeah. Oh, Josh Wilson says, "Great point. Sometimes you just need a hamburger," and that's so true. I
True.
feel like that sums up that life so much. Sometimes you just like, I just need a hamburger today. I need to
Mhm.
feel like I'm back home, and that just really
Exactly.
helps adjusting to things. Yeah.
Exactly.
So we have another question. What is the cost of living like? And this in itself is like a very this is a very big topic, and this
Mhm.
can change depending on like where you're living and where you're teaching, if you're in a big city or a small city, the kind of school you work for. Um, but overall, I would say that the cost of living is it's very manageable. It's very comfortable. It's
Yes.
not very yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I think like the short answer to that is like from like especially like you're both American, we are used to especially with like social things of going out to eat
Mhm.
or transportation or things. We're just used to paying a lot more for that.
Yep.
And so when comparing it of like, oh, like I can live off a lot less. So that's just it's the cost of living is just a lot less here. Not a lot less here, but yeah. But you
Yeah.
can just stretch it longer.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you might look at, the salary and things for most teaching packages, and you're kind of like, oh, but like, how does that compare when I'm back home? But
Hmm.
everything here is so much cheaper. So, like,
Yeah.
yeah, you might have an apartment provided, or you might have an apartment stipend with your salary. It kind of
Hmm.
depends on the school again, but you won't have to worry about like the transportation as much. Like, it's so easy to take metros, subway, or buses, and Didi, like using other Chinese apps to get around. That's very cheap. I would also say like eating out, depending on where you go, can be very
Yeah.
cheap if you're eating more. If you're eating more like local restaurants and very like Chinese food, it's very easy to eat
Hmm.
cheaply and save money that way. But now I live in Beijing now, and it's like it can be kind of expensive going out, especially if you're going to more foreign kind of restaurants. So that's something to think about.
Yeah, that's what I usually tell people is like they're like, "Oh, like is this salary enough or, how much do you
Yeah,
spend on expenses each month?" And I say if you're planning on like eating foreign things and doing foreign things, like going to foreign bars and foreign restaurants, and just doing that all the time, like and not
yeah,
ever like I say like living the Chinese way, your money's going to be gone very quickly. Obviously, your
definitely.
salary is meant for a Chinese country, and you need to kind of do that accordingly. But you all if you're willing to do that, you have enough money to like do whatever you want really, and if you want to
Yeah.
like go to a foreign restaurant like once every few days, you can do that, and it's not like you're scraping pennies.
Exactly. Yeah, definitely. Like coming from like we taught at a university, and the salary was very different there. But we lived in a small city. We were able to like live very, very comfortably. We would eat out locally a lot, and every now and then go to a foreign restaurant. But we still had money to like spend on other things too. Like we could go out and just go to the movies, enjoy things, like spend time with our friends,
Yeah.
go out to some bars, go
Yeah.
out to restaurants. And we even were able to travel a lot too.
Mhm.
Like when we had time off, like you had money that you could like, hey, I'm going to take a weekend trip somewhere, or I want to go do something different. Or during your spring festival holiday, we traveled to Thailand. Went to different countries. So
Yeah.
you're definitely able to kind of like use and budget your money that you can do a lot when you're
Exactly.
living here.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And coming from a person who's like not responsible with money, you can still do it. Like you don't have to like budget like by the book. You can just kind of like wing it
Right.
and still live comfortably.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. It's all about just like keeping that in mind. And once you get here and you kind of see like, oh wow, I can get this for this much. That's so cheap.
Hmm.
Like you'll kind of see how you can kind of budget your money living in China. But it's
Yeah.
very comfortable, very manageable, and you can do
Yeah.
so much here.
And it
Yeah,
takes some time to kind of get your mind wrapped around like what things cost because you're using a different currency. So once you kind of grasp that of like what's expensive for Chinese money and what's cheap for Chinese money, it comes a lot
yeah,
easier too.
definitely. It's just all about getting used to that. It just comes with the whole package of getting used to China, that kind of stuff. Oh, cool. We have a comment from Elizabeth. In my experience, daily living expenses are so much lower unless you want to splurge on an expat restaurant. I definitely agree with that. I think day to day life is very cheap in China, and I think
Yes.
that you make it go very far. And then every now and then, if you're like, hey, I want to get a massage or I want to
Yeah.
do something special, it's very easy to
It's
do.
very easy to treat yourself, and that's a, like living in like where I come from, America. Like I can't do that very often. Like I have to plan for it, but in China, it's just like, all right, I want to do it, let's do it.
Right. And I think even here you can afford some things you wouldn't be able to afford
Mhm.
back home. Like I know a lot of people get IEs, and an IE is
Yeah,
like an auntie. Like she might cook and clean for you.
yeah,
And like in America, like I couldn't do that. You know,
I
like
know,
that's way
right?
more expensive. But here in China, it's like that's something that it is more affordable. Like just things like that. Um, there's other things you can just kind of afford and not have to worry about your money as much.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, so cool. Those are seven of the top questions that we've gotten since being in China. There's so many more, but these are some of the general broad topics that we have. Is there anything else about those questions you would want to add?
I would say like, yeah, when we get asked these questions, obviously, we could each question we could talk about for like 3 hours, like minimum,
Yeah,
to
yes,
answer.
exactly.
And obviously, with with everything, it's it depends on so many different things of like where you're living, what your specific job is going to be, things like that. But overall, like in a word, I would say that um, living in China is like one of the best decisions I've ever made. And it's just a really, really great experience where you can meet people from all over the world and get to do this awesome thing that, and live in this awesome community that is the expat community of China. And I just think that's so awesome to be a part of.
Right. You have the chance to do so many different kinds of things, and it's awesome to yeah to explore that and to do things you never would have done before once you come to
Mm-hmm.
China. So that's really cool.
Yeah.
Like you said, I feel like it depends where you're going, and I feel like
Mm-hmm.
definitely like know yourself and kind of do some research before you come. Like, do you want to live in a big city, small city? What kind of experience are you looking for? Do you want a really local Chinese experience? Are you wanting more expat foreign things around you? So I think just do some research before you come and make sure you
Yeah.
kind of understand a little bit
And
more.
even depending on where you live, like even if you're living in a different really big city and you want to get the small town feel, you can travel and do that. That's very easily accessible. So you're not just limited to wherever you live. You can go and experience so many different parts of Chinese culture and travel and trips.
Right. I feel like China has so much variety. There's so much here.
Mhm.
And so there's definitely options and there's lots of experiences you can have depending on where you go.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. So yeah, I was just gonna say, if you guys have more questions, please comment below and let us know what else are you thinking of before you come to China. What are some other questions that you might have for us? Because myself or Lauren would be very happy to answer them.
Yeah.
Lauren actually has blog channel. So if you're looking for more information, Lauren makes great blogs and information. What's your YouTube name?
You can search me as Lauren's Lauren apostrophe S China Life. And then
Lauren
you can find
China.
me on Instagram as well through that.
Yes, yeah, she makes great stuff about information about just coming to China, living in China, what it's like, more day in the day life stuff as well. And as I'm also with Career China, so if you guys want any more information, we'll be posting more links and things below. So make sure you comment, let us know what you like or don't like, and if you have any more questions for us. Thank you for joining me today, Lauren.
Thank you so much, Rachel, for inviting me.
Of course, of course. Okay, hope you have a great day, and we'll be in touch.
Alrighty. Bye.